You know that feeling when you're in a relationship and everything looks fine on paper, but something just feels slightly off, like you can't name it, can't explain it to anyone, and you almost feel guilty for even noticing it. Your friends think things look great. You tell yourself you're overthinking, but somewhere underneath it all, there's this quiet knowing that this one isn't going to make it. So why do we sense that so early? And why do we spend so long convincing ourselves we're wrong? Today, we're looking at the early psychological signs that a relationship won't last, what's actually happening in your mind and body when you pick up on them, and what you can do with that information before it costs you more than it needs to. But before we get into it, Psychology Vault exists because real psychology should feel like something you can actually use. Not a textbook, not a lecture, just honest insight into why you are the way you are, how you love, and what your patterns are trying to tell you. If that's the kind of content you want more of, subscribe now, because what we're about to get into might genuinely change the way you read the early stages of a relationship. Let's go. Quick thing before we start, I left a question pinned in the comments about exactly this feeling. If you've ever stayed in something, even after that quiet knowing showed up, take 2 seconds and answer it when you get there. I read every single reply. 1. You feel more anxious than excited. There's a concept in psychology called attachment activation. When we enter a new relationship, our attachment system switches on. For people with a secure attachment style, that feels mostly warm and curious. But for many of us, especially those with anxious or avoidant attachment patterns, early love activates something that feels a lot more like low-level dread than joy. Psychologists call this hypervigilance, our nervous system scanning constantly for threat, for inconsistency, for signs that this is going to hurt. Think of it like starting a new game where every tutorial makes you anxious instead of curious. If just being in this relationship has your nervous system on edge from week one, that's not butterflies. That's your body flagging something. Excitement and anxiety feel similar in the body, but only one of them settles down once you feel safe. And honestly, the one coming up next is the one that hits closest to home for most people, because it doesn't look like a red flag from the outside. It looks like love. 2. You're working really hard to feel connected. Real connection in a healthy relationship doesn't feel like a project. It feels like relief. But early on, one of the clearest psychological signs a relationship won't last is what researchers call effortful intimacy. The experience of having to constantly work, perform, explain, or justify yourself just to feel close to someone. It's different from normal early-stage nervousness. This is the sense that no matter what you do, the gap between you never quite closes. This is the part that sounds almost too simple, but it explains everything. Connection that requires constant maintenance from the very beginning is not a foundation, it's a warning. The early days of a relationship should feel like the signal getting stronger, not like you're always trying to find it again. 3. Their words and actions don't match. Psychologists call this behavioral incongruence, and it is one of the most reliable early indicators of future relationship breakdown. It's not about one-off moments, it's a pattern where what someone says and what they consistently do point in different directions. I really value communication, but they go quiet for days. You're a priority to me, but they cancel on you repeatedly without real accountability. Our brains are wired to trust behavior over language. It's a core part of how we evolved to read other people. So when those two things don't line up, our nervous system registers the discrepancy even when our conscious mind is still giving benefit of the doubt. It's like a character in a show who keeps saying they're the good guy, but every single scene shows you something different. At some point, you stop listening to what they say and start watching what they do. When someone shows you a pattern early on, it's not an exception, it's a preview. Everything we've just covered is the why. The part coming up is the part that actually changes things, because understanding these signs is only useful if you know what to do when you see them. 4. You're shrinking yourself to keep the peace. This one runs deep. Psychologists call it self-suppression in relational contexts, the ongoing process of editing yourself, softening your needs, or avoiding topics you know will create friction. A healthy relationship in its early stages should feel like a place you're slowly becoming more yourself, not less. When you notice you're already managing your personality around someone, minimizing opinions, swallowing discomfort, performing a version of you that's easier for them to handle, that's one of the most psychologically significant signs the relationship isn't built on a foundation that will hold. And if this one hits close to home, that's okay. Some of this runs deep, especially when people-pleasing patterns started long before this relationship did. Recognizing it is already something. Shrinking yourself to keep someone around isn't love, it's a slow disappearance. And the right relationship won't ask for that. The fact that you're here, paying attention to this, already says something important about you. Noticing these signs isn't pessimism, it's self-awareness. And self-awareness is where everything changes. So here's what you can do with any of this. These patterns aren't character flaws. Not yours, not theirs. They're signals. The question is whether you're willing to look at them clearly. 3 things worth sitting with honestly. Think about the last time you felt genuinely at ease in this relationship. Not happy, not distracted, but actually at ease. When was it? And what was different about that moment? When you imagine bringing your full, unedited self into this relationship, the opinions, the needs, the uncomfortable conversations, what feeling comes up? Is it safety or is it bracing? If the anxiety or the effort or the gap you've been feeling disappeared tomorrow, what would you have to admit about how you've been explaining it to yourself? Healthy early relationships don't feel like constant work or constant worry. They feel like the beginning of something that has room for you to actually be in it. That's the standard. Not perfection, just room. If you've ever stayed in something long past the first quiet sign, you are not alone. Most of us have, because hope is powerful, and because choosing to see something clearly means choosing what comes after it. But here's what's true. The moment you start reading early patterns for what they actually are, not what you want them to be, you stop giving years to things that were asking for months. That shift is enormous, and it starts right here. If you want to keep going with this, 2 videos I'd point you toward next. From the same space, why you pull away from people who actually love you. It's the flip side of everything we just covered, and it might surprise you. If this one resonated, subscribe, because this channel exists for exactly the moments when something finally makes your own patterns make sense. And I want to keep making content that does that for you. Thanks so much for being here, and until next time, take care of yourself.